Another question out there? Let's go to the back there. Yep.
I had the pleasure of interviewing you last year about the astronauts, the group that you discovered. And that was in 1963 that you started recording them for RCA. So I imagine around that time with them, or maybe slightly before that, was maybe when you transitioned from a lot of his jazz greats into rock and roll, and after that, Jefferson Airplane and so forth. But I wonder maybe if around that time, the whole story of discovering them is a pretty fun story to tell. But also, I wonder about that transition around that time, moving from the world of jazz to the world of rock and roll and surf music in that case. If you could comment on that transition for you.
Well, I think what happened then, when I got signed as a producer, you know, you had to come up with hits, and you know, you had to make money, and so, you know, not only was I doing jazz, but I was doing folk. I had a group called the Women Folk, and another group called the Villages, and Glenn Yarborough was one of my acts. And then I was doing, you know, Paul Horn and some jazz things, and then things like the Jefferson Airplane, Sam Cooke. I mean, it was everything. It was just, you know, at that point you weren't put in one groove as just say a jazz producer or a rock and roll producer or whatever. You did everything, and it was a great learning experience, especially with Eddie Fisher.
You didn't dig it.
Trying to find, I liked him a lot, but he was like a 16-year-old kid, you know. He was just a nice young guy who had a great voice, but he had no sense of time. I used to hire his piano player, give him double, who would stand in front of him on sessions and count and point him in on things. And
he was a white guy, right?
yes, he was. He definitely was.
All due respect.
I went through, when they told me I had to record them, I went through about 500 songs till I found a song that I thought had a chance to be a hit. And
Are you serious?
yeah.
And what was the song?
It was called Games That People Play, and yeah, that was it.
500 songs.
Yeah, I went through 500 songs. I used to listen. I took my job seriously.
It's amazing to hear. It's amazing to hear, though, that he didn't have a sense of timing. That's crazy.
None. His pitch wasn't that great. That's true. He had a beautiful sounding voice.
Right.
Just
wow.
beautiful. And he was really a nice, sweet guy.
Yeah.
He was just, people took advantage of him all the time. I felt sorry for him. There was one arranger, a famous arranger, who I hired to do this date. And he ran down the first song. Great, got it all. And he said, Al, I got a headache. He said, I'm going to have to concertmaster conduct. And okay, and he went outside and laid on a couch. And so we finished that date, and then we had another one, and same thing happened. I got a headache, Al, you know. So I finally went out to him, and I said, what's going on? He said, to be honest, Al, I can't stand the way that son of a bitch sings. And he was one of the great arrangers around. I won't mention his name.
But right there in the center.
Did you ever have any challenges with mastering engineers taking your mixes somewhere you didn't really want them to go?
Any challenges with mastering engineers taking your mixes other places?
Well, you know, when I first started, we did everything. You know, we went right down and mastered our own stuff. So we didn't screw it up too much. We got what we wanted. And then later on, I had a couple of things that were, I think the Toto record, the first CD that came back from Japan was the
This
guy.
is the very early days of
Yeah,
CDs.
really early days.
Really
and
gritty.
it just sounded like a razor
Brittle.
blade. It was so sibilant. So now what I do is I go to mastering all the time and stay with the guy. But I use the best mastering guy in the world, Doug Sachs, and so he's great, and he's got fabulous taste, and I always go up there and hang out with him while we're mastering, because you know he's got questions to ask, and so I don't have any problem with that, but some guys do. But I think if it's your record or you're the engineer, you want to follow it through all the way to make sure it's right. I mean, years ago on LPs, I mean, we would follow right down to the test pressings to make sure that the pressings were right, or throw them back if they weren't. So it's a matter of taking pride in what you do and wanting to, you know, make sure it's right. You know, it's not only your job, but you know, you have an artist's career at stake sometimes.
But right there in the front.
Unforgettable is one of my favorite songs ever. Your voice is gorgeous.
Thank you.
What mics do you use on the strings? Because they're almost important.
What do I use on the strings? A Neumann U67.
It's a classic mic.
Yeah, it's an old classic mic. Depending on how big the section is, on 4 sometimes.
How did?
Not really that old, is it? The 67 isn't really that old, though, is it?
It's got to be 40 years old now. Yeah.
I just dated myself.
Al, what kind of mic did you use on My Voice?
That was the
new-
one that
was it
Nat
the
used.
new
That
one?
was a 47.
The 47.
Yeah, Neumann.
Oh, it's just
Yeah,
a
U47.
Yeah, and that was the same one they did.
Yeah,
'Cause we
yeah.
have pictures
yeah.
of it.
And then
Amazing.
a funny story. We used the 67 on Diana all the time, and we were doing a video at Capitol, and they wanted a mic in front of her just because she was going to be out in the room and they were filming. And so we put the mic in front of her, and she sang in it. When she heard it in her earphone, she said, "Oh my God, what is this mic?" So it was the same mic that used on you and Frank Sinatra. It was his mic. He even had Frank's name on the box. So yeah, it's great to be able to have that. you
And
know.
that's not
And
a
your father's piano is still there. That
Right.
little piano we used.
Right.
And a stool at Sinatra. When you walk down the hall at Capitol and you see all these pictures, Diana Krall told me that when she walks down, she just kind of almost prays to each one of them to
Yeah.
just give her the energy. I know
Yeah.
it's got to have an effect on
It
people.
is. It's a very special place.
Yeah.
That hallway, just in
Absolutely.
the room, it's magic.
Yeah, it's a great studio.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Those anechoic chambers, or whatever you call them, under the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen them, but every time I talk to Les Paul,
Yeah,
he
designed
brags to
them.
me about building
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And he asked me one day, "How do you like my chambers?" I said, "What chamber are you talking about?" "My anechoic chambers under the parking lot." Where's that at? He said, Capitol. I never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. And then he told me, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they're right up.
There's 8
We're
of
almost standing on them."
yeah.
That is, what about those things? Are they something that we use a lot or
Yeah,
not?
yeah. I use them on Natalie all the time. I use them on vocal a lot. And strings, you know, live, it's just real warm sound.
I heard
They're
someone
great.
was trying to.
They're trying
Build
to,
something and
yeah.
mess it
Yeah,
all
but
up.
that's
Paul, did
gone
you
by
fix
the
that?
wayside.
Yeah.
They lost the financing, and so they're not.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we use them.
Well, they were going to build something and tear it down and
You know, Les Paul and my uncle were very, very close. So when I was a kid, I'd go over there. They worked on equipment together a lot, designing equipment. So when I'd go there, I'd see Les all the time, and he would rub my head and all. He was like my uncle also. So we were at a dinner, and a bunch of engineers were sitting at the table. They were talking about different things, and they were talking about who they all knew and everything else. And I told them I knew Les Paul. You know, he was a really good friend. And oh yeah. So Les Paul got up to get an award, and as he walked by, he looked down and said, "Hey Al, how you doing?" So I felt
Vindicated.